Welcome to DaVinci Resolve Core Training. I'm Steve and I'll be your instructor. If you haven't discovered it already, DaVinci Resolve is a deep app, and because you're watching this tutorial, I'm going to assume that you have a deep commitment to learning it properly. In that regard, I prepared a highly structured 6-hour curriculum that will take you through the entire Resolve experience, so that at the end of the training, you'll have the confidence to apply your new skill set to any video project you have in mind. As an added benefit, this training also prepares you for taking Blackmagic Design's end user exam. If you're new to Resolve, or perhaps coming from another editing application, I have 2 suggestions that will help you get the most out of this training. First, I suggest that you watch the entire tutorial in order and from the beginning. Each lesson builds on concepts I covered in a previous lesson, and while you may be tempted to skip around, watching the lessons in the way I designed them to be watched will help ensure your success. Second, I recommend that you work through the tutorial using our provided media. There's something about applying the knowledge you receive directly to your hands that will begin building the muscle memory you need to work efficiently. I also want to point out that this training is compatible with all versions of DaVinci Resolve 18, including the recent 18.5 update. That said, it's impractical to reshoot an entire 6-hour tutorial every time Blackmagic Design adds a feature or makes a small UI change. So for some lessons, unless there's a specific change that affects the workflow, the recordings will show an earlier version of the UI. While I do my best to ensure forward compatibility, it is possible that I overlook something. If you discover an incompatibility, please let me know by emailing me at support@rippletraining.com. With that out of the way, I'm going to spend the remainder of this lesson giving you a quick overview of the DaVinci Resolve interface before we get into the nuts and bolts of Resolve. You won't need any media for this part. So let's get started. When you first open DaVinci Resolve, you'll need to create a project. By default, an untitled project is created for you. A project is the sum total of all your work, and it contains all your media and your timelines. To create new projects and open pre-existing ones, click the Home button to bring up the Project Manager window. Each of these thumbnails represent a different project at various stages of completion. I'll open this one by double-clicking. When you open a project, it will open into the last page you are working on. Pages appear as buttons along the bottom of the UI and are labeled Media, Cut, Edit, Fusion, Color, Fairlight, and Deliver. You can think of pages as dedicated rooms for performing specific tasks, such as editing or color grading. The order of these buttons are not arbitrary. Moving left to right, they reflect the order of traditional post-production workflow. So for example, you would typically start in the media page to import and sort your media before moving into the cut or edit page to assemble your story. From there, you might move into the fusion page for creating motion graphics or visual effects, then move into the color page for color correction and grading. After the picture edit is complete, the sound work begins, and that typically happens in the Fairlight page. And finally, when you're ready to export multiple versions of your movie for the web, a device, or a broadcast network, you would do so from the Deliver page. What's interesting about Resolve is that even though there are dedicated pages for performing specific editorial tasks, you're not locked into this way of working at all. So for example, let's say that I'm working in the Edit page and I need to import some additional media. I don't have to go back to the Media page to do this. I simply open the Media pool and drag in the clips I need. The same is true for exporting a movie. I don't have to go into the Deliver page. I just click the Quick Export button in the toolbar, then choose a delivery destination from the window. So there is a certain amount of functional overlap between these pages. Even so, let's go over each page briefly. We'll start with the Media page. As I mentioned, this is the primary workspace for importing media into your project. The Media Storage browser in the upper left is where you can browse your computer's file system and any attached storage device to locate media for your projects. To the right of that is the Viewer, which lets you preview your media. On the right side of the interface are panels for viewing the audio properties of your clips and adding metadata. Below the Viewer is the Media pool. This is where you add media assets for the specific project you're working in. The Cut page was specifically designed for fast turnaround editing, such as vlogs, event videos, podcasts, and news segments. With its built-in smart editing tools, the Cut page is perfect for creators who don't need the more advanced editing features of the Edit page, but still require all the tools necessary to deliver a polished final product. The Cut page has 3 main sections: the Media pool in the upper left for importing and organizing media, a Viewer for previewing and marking your clips, and an upper and lower timeline for assembling and trimming your clips. The Edit page is Resolve's full-featured editing environment that is similar in form and function to most other professional track-based editing apps like Adobe Premiere and Avid Media Composer. To the right of the media pool are two viewers. One is the source viewer, which allows you to view and mark your source media from the media pool, and the other is the timeline viewer, which displays the work you're performing in the timeline. All of these pages include a row of buttons in the upper toolbar for revealing workflow-related panels like effects, the index, and so on. Clicking this button will display the panel full height, and if you have more than one panel selected, the full height panel will split between both panels. Moving into the Fusion page, this environment is designed for compositing, visual effects, and motion graphics work. The upper half of the UI has two viewers, which will allow you to view different elements of your composition. For example, if you're working on an animated title, you can use one viewer to build and edit your title, and the other viewer to see your final composite. The workspace includes transport controls for playing back your compositions, and a toolbar containing a variety of tools for building and editing your compositions. The color page is where DaVinci Resolve gained its reputation, and it's at the heart of the Resolve experience. The color page is where you manipulate the contrast and color of your clips. This can be done on the entire image or selected parts of the image using masks, qualifiers, and other secondary correction tools. The color page is divided into several areas that all work together to build a grade. At the center of the UI is the viewer, which displays your color adjustments. The node editor to the right of the viewer is where you assemble one or more corrections into a branch-like structure called a node tree. Each node in the tree can be used for different stages of a grade. For example, one node can be used for adjusting the contrast and color balance of the entire image, and another node can be used for isolating specific elements, such as a subject's face. When it's time to perform dedicated sound editing and mixing, you'll jump into Fairlight. The majority of the window is taken up by audio tracks, which is a familiar convention in all digital audio workstations. Like the edit page, the toolbar allows you to access the media pool, effects, and a sound library, but it also has audio workflow-specific panels for recording ADR, or automated dialogue replacement. The primary tools for making selections and performing audio edits are found in the toolbar above the timeline. There's also a full-featured mixer for controlling volume and adding effects to clips and tracks or groups of tracks. The Deliver page is where you apply render settings to your movie so that you can export it to one or more file formats or web destinations. Presets appear in a slider along the top of the panel and include popular social media destinations, but also presets for handing off your work to third-party apps like Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, and Avid Media Composer. The viewer and timeline allow you to quickly perform a final sanity check before exporting, and the render queue on the right allows you to render different file formats and versions of your project. If you want to hide one or more pages that you decide are not pertinent to your particular workflow, then you can hide them by going to the Workspace menu, choosing Show Page, then deselecting the page you don't want to appear at the bottom of the window. Additionally, all the pages can be switched to using keyboard shortcuts listed in the Switch to Page menu. So that wraps up my quick tour of DaVinci Resolve. In the next lesson, you'll begin cutting your first project in the appropriately labeled Cut page.